When I'm at cemeteries, I like to visit the headstones and look at the people who are buried there and see what their lives were like. So right now, I'm at the Mount Pleasant Cemetery in Edmonton. We're going to visit a few graves and we're going to explore the lives of the people who are buried there. The story of Thomas Clutterham begins in May 1848 when he was born in Biddulph, Canada West. In his family, Clutterham had three brothers, Samuel, Charles, and Robert, and two sisters, Anne and Sarah. It appeared that Clutterham lived most of his young life in his hometown, which was a community located 30 kilometers north of London, Ontario. In 1872, he suffered his first personal tragedy with the death of his sister, Sarah. 4 years later, he was living in Middlesex County where he married Elizabeth Carey, who preferred to go by the name Lizzie. Around this same time, he joined the volunteer militia of the area. In 1879, 3 years after he and Lizzie married, their son Hilliard was born. At some point after this, they moved to Portage-la-Prairie, where another son, Alan, was born in 1882. A third son, Bert, was born in Thunder Bay in 1886. In the late 1880s, he also saw the death of his mother in 1885 and his father in 1889. In 1892, Lizzie and Thomas had a daughter named Grace, who was born in Connecticut, where the family was living at the time. From at least that year until 1900, he and his family lived in Connecticut. It was also in 1900 that his sister, Anne, died. In April 1903, Thomas and his family moved to Strathcona, located across the river from Edmonton. The Daily Journal wrote, "Thomas Clutterham and his family leave this week to take up residence in Canada." In the booming communities of Strathcona and Edmonton, which were separate at the time, Clutterham was always busy with his work as a plasterer and brick mason, building many of the structures that still stand to this day. He was also a member of the Oddfellow Lodge and enjoyed curling in Strathcona. He was a prominent part of a local club and was honored by the Curling Club in 1907. In their new home, two of his sons were working for the Canadian Pacific Railway, and another son worked for Potter McDougall. In 1905, his brother Charles died. 1 year later, on November 21, 1906, Thomas Clutterham died. His brother Samuel lived until 1913, while his other brother Robert lived until 1924. Lizzie outlived him by a quarter century until her own death in 1932. His daughter Grace lived until 1964, along with his sons Hilliard, who died in 1956, Bert in 1964, and finally Alan in 1970.